let's get to it. I haven't been here in a minute. My day's numbered. Still thinking of making the most of them. Still at you and whoever you showed up with. Oh man, alright. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How's it going, everybody? My name's Infamous Isaac, and for me, this is directly after the Smite video that I don't know if I'm gonna upload that one first or last, honestly, I don't know. But this is directly after that, so some adrenaline might be running high, or not, who knows. But regardless, I'm here with a video, right? A video of me talking about something. And the something that I'm going to be talking about today is a movie that came out recently in October. Dune. 2021. Yo. Oh man, I can't wait to talk about this movie. And the question is, how am I going to talk about it? What am I going to say? What am I going to say about it? Am I going to talk about the story? I don't know, honestly. I'm still deciding that myself. Like, ooh man, because it could be a really short review. Or, well, not even a review, just me talking about it. Or it can be like an hour long. Like, it can be as long as the movie if I talk about all of it. Oh man. You know what? I'm gonna talk about it. Oh man. So, I hope you guys are ready for an hour long video. I think this might be the longest video I make. But the only way we'll know if it is if we start. Excuse me. So, hopefully my controller doesn't die on me during the middle of this. If it does, I'll just cut out the part and then we'll keep going. But regardless, right? So Dune, a 2021 movie based off of a bunch of science fiction novels called Dune, which came out in the 1960s, right? It's been a long-running series, and it's actually had a movie adaptation before in the 80s. And so this is the second like movie adaptation. And what's it called? Modern times, with people like Timothy Chalamet, Jason Momoa, what's it called? Zendaya, a bunch of people, right? Star-studded cast. And so the movie starts with our one of the main characters, Zendaya's character. I forgot her name. Yeah, I forgot her name, but I'm just gonna call her Zendaya since that's what I know her for. But yeah, Zendaya, basically she's on this desert planet, right? And she's talking about how this planet is called Arrakis, and that there's this people on Arrakis called the Fremen. The Fremen are people that live on this planet like natives, basically. They're natives to the planet, and they live underground because it's a desert planet, right? And they've been here for years. And the thing that attracts other races to this planet is a substance, or not substance, material called spice, right? And basically, this spice is used as a hallucinogenic, but also as a means for space travel. If spice didn't exist, space travel wouldn't be possible. And so spice is very desired. It's the most important resource in the entire universe, in this universe. And so one of those races that came to there, to them, what's it called? To Arrakis, were the Harkonnen, a race sent by the Empire, right? And the Harkonnen are a warrior people, right? Like imagine them as like Vikings, kind of honestly, like alien Vikings, and they've always just been at war. The Fremen and Harkonnen have always been at war. The Harkonnen harvest the spice, while the Fremen try to get them off their planet. Basically, that's how it always goes. But one day, the Harkonnen just leave, due to the decree of the what's it called, the Emperor, or the Empire, technically. They just leave, and they leave all the materials there. and you dip. No war whatsoever. And so, oh, excuse me. We go back to, or now we go to our main character of this movie, Paul Atreides, as he wakes up because it's revealed that what Zendaya was telling us was a dream. Like, he's been having these dreams. And he's eating with his mom as as he gets out of bed, he's eating with his mom. His mom's named Jessica, I don't remember the actor's name, please forgive me. Um, but she's eating with him, and she's like, alright, Paul, let's try this. Command me to pass you that water. And Paul pulls out this weird voice effect, and he's like, give me the water. And she almost does it. But she's like, oh, yeah, you still need some work on it. And we learn that Paul's mom, Jessica, is a part of the Bene Gesserit, like an all-female religious type of group with a bunch of strong, crazy powers, right? And they're fighters. And Jessica has been teaching Paul to use one of those powers. It's a voice command where if he says a command in this like tonal shift or tone, they'll do it. She just has to say it the right way. And Paul's trying to learn it basically, but he's not a man, or he's not a girl, or a woman, excuse me. So it's been a bit weird. But anyways, right? So Paul goes to talk to one of his friends, Duncan, right? Duncan is Jason Momoa, Aquaman. This dude is fire. I'll tell you right now, Duncan is so sick. One of my favorite characters from the movie. So dope. But yeah, he's talking to Duncan, and he's like, yo, Duncan, take me to Arrakis with you, bro. I need to go there. I've seen these dreams. I've had these hallucinations, dog. It's real. It's real-ish. Oh. Okay. So anyways, yeah. Excuse me. Duncan's like, nah, G, you're trying to get me court-martialed. I have to go ahead of you guys a couple weeks ahead so I can scout out, and I can't bring the son of the Duke with me, you know? So just stay here. And then he's like, but Duncan, please. And he's like, nah, dog, put on some muscle. And so he leaves. He leaves to Arrakis, and what's it called? Paul goes to talk to his dad, right? His dad is Leto Atreides, the Duke of House Atreides. And what I neglected to mention is that House Atreides is one of like the Empire's houses, right? Just like how House Harkonnen, excuse me, is like House Atreides, but except House Atreides is fire. And so he's talking to his dad. His dad's pretty cool, honestly. I forgot the name of his actor, but please forgive me. He's sick. He's honestly dope. So he's talking to his dad, and he's like, yo, Pops, we need to go to Arrakis. Please let me go with you. And so his dad's just like, no, we're going later on, you know. We can't do that. We can't risk the dangers, you know. And so he's like, but why? And his dad's like, Paul, my dad, right? My dad chose me to be the Duke of House Atreides, not because I was ready for it, but because I had to step up to be ready for it, and I became that person. Now I'm the Duke of House Atreides, you know. You're gonna be the next Duke of House Atreides, right? That's undeniable, unless if like something bad happens. But if you don't feel like you're ready, that's perfectly fine, you know. I didn't. You weren't born to be just that, you know. Because at the very end of the day, if you can't succeed in being the Duke, at the very least you were one thing, my son. And then Paul's like, yeah, you're the realest nigga alive. And so, oh man, excuse me. Paul goes to another character, Gurney, right? And well, no, Gurney goes to him because Paul's just in the weapon room training and all that, and he's just thinking. He's thinking about all the hallucinations he's been seeing, the dreams about Zendaya. And so Gurney's like, all right, Paul, get ready, we're gonna duel. And he's like, oh, but are you sure? I'm not ready. And he's like, the Harkonnen don't wait for you to be ready. You either do it now or you die. And so he's like, oh, okay. And then Gurney swings on him. They start boxing, and Paul pulls away with the dub. You know, he pulls away with the win. And Gurney's like, "Are you ready now?" He's like, "Oh, I'm ready." And so basically, I don't remember if this was before the Leto conversation or not, but the Empire or the Emperor sends a group of people, right? And they send these people to House Atreides to basically give full ownership of Arrakis to get the resources that they need, right? And so they come over, they sign the contract, or not the contract, they sign the, what's it called? The agreement, and now House Atreides owns Arrakis, basically. And so Leto suspects something suspicious, right? He doesn't feel like this is right. So he has that hunch now of like, something's weird's going on. This doesn't feel right. And so they get ready to go to Arrakis. They go there, they fly over there, and they land on Arrakis, right? Desert planet. And we see some people from the agreement that were there. They flew on ahead. Oh, excuse me. But no Duncan yet. He's still not there. Like, he's still not with the main cast again. And so they're talking and they're just chilling. Like, oh yeah, what's up? You guys are here. Let me show you around a little bit to the place that we have here, the base, right? They show them around. It seems a little worse for wear, but that was because the Harkonnen left them that stuff, so you know, suspect some foul play. But yeah. So they're going around. They're meeting all these new people. It's fire, right? And I don't remember. Oh yeah, as soon as Paul gets there to his room, he immediately almost gets assassinated. But a servant that Jessica picked out basically like distracted the drone, and Paul was saved basically. So it's just a minor thing to notice. And later on, Duncan comes back, right? He comes back and he's like, "Yo, what's up, homie?" And Paul's like, "Yo, what's good, dog? How's it been?" And he's talking about the Fremen, the people that he's been living with for the past couple of weeks while they've arrived, basically, and how they're cool people, honestly. Like they're warrior tribe. They do things in like a tribe like manner, basically. That's what tribe is, stupid. But what's it called? He's just talking about singing their praises, right? How they're good people. And so one of the people there, one of the leaders from the Fremen tribe, go over to Leto and Duncan can vouch for him, right? And he shows them their customs and all that, and they're talking, and Leto's like, "We're not gonna intrude on your people. We're not gonna like disturb your way of life. We're just here for spice, and hopefully we could become acquaintances, basically." And he's like, "Hopefully, but if you guys like interrupt our way of life, you will get clapped." And then Paul's like, "I've seen you before. Why don't you stay with us? Like, it would be an honor." And he's like, "Honor can get you so far in the desert, young one. But I appreciate the gesture." And so he leaves. And then next thing that happens is, what's it called? Another Fremen person comes. It sounds really racist. Another Fremen member, this time a female, comes along and she's like, "Oh yeah, let me show you around the spice harvesters and all that." And so she goes with Paul, Leto, and Gurney, and a couple other people on an ornithopter, which is basically like a helicopter, but with like what's it called? I don't remember what they're called, but like insect type wings to fly. And they're flying there. They go over there and they look at the what's it called? The spice harvester. And it looks worse for wear, but it's working. It's functional. And so she's talking about all this stuff, how the spice harvester works, the desert, the suits that they have on to basically retain water, so they don't lose any water, and it's what's it called? Kind of recycled, but not in like it's not the same water, right? It's not the same sweat. It gets purified, is what I'm trying to say. It gets purified. And so he's talking about that, and then Gurney spots, what's it called? a sandworm in the distance. And sandworms in this universe are the apex predators of Arrakis, basically. Because they're like 130 feet tall as some buildings in the United States, period. Like, they're long and they're tall. Or, well, they're long and they're wide, is what I'm trying to say. But what's it called? He notices it and she's like, oh, well, you noticed, what's it called? Excuse me, oh my goodness. A sandworm. Alright, but we gotta tell the people to get ready to evacuate or not evacuate, lift up the spice harvester because they have protocol, right? They have a helicopter lift up the spice harvester so the worm doesn't get it. Because sandworms are attracted to rhythm, like rhythmic patterns in the sand. So if you're walking, like at all on the sand, they'll follow you. So the Fremen people had to make a walk, basically, that isn't rhythmic at all, so they could survive in the desert. But spice harvesters are machines, and machines have rhythm a lot. Oh, excuse me. So that spells trouble. Basically, they get the helicopter ready, but because it's in such poor condition, it doesn't work. The protocol fails, and they can't get the spice harvester up in time. And so Leto's like, all right, bet we have to rescue these people. The spice harvester, it's a sacrifice to save multiple lives. So he's like, all right, everybody in the spice harvester, how many are there? He's like 21. And so he's like, all right, get outside of the spice harvester, get on these ships, 7 for each ship. And then Paul's like, you sure we can hold that many? He's like, well, make room for them, Paul. And so Paul and Gurney go out to direct the people to the ship. And while they're doing that, Paul has another hallucination, but this time it's about his mom, and she's holding a child. And Zendaya again, but this time, like, it's not all smiles. She stabs him straight in the stomach, and Paul dies basically. But then Gurney snaps him out of the hallucination because they get everybody out of the spice harvester, and the sandworm's coming. It's on its way. And so they start bolting, cinematic craziness going on, And they get to the ship. They fly back and they get to the base that they're at in Arrakis. And Leto's like, yo, dog, what did you just do? Why did you think it was a good idea to stand there? You could have gotten yourself killed. Being a father, being a responsible father, scolding his son for doing something stupid, but caring at the end. Paul's like, I'm sorry, sir, it won't happen again. He's like, go! And Paul leaves. And Leto's talking to the Fremen lady. And he's like, they set us up to fail. The Harkonnen left these tools here in terrible condition, knowing that we would use them and almost die using them. And she's like, I mean, something we can do about that, We hate the Harkonnen just as much as you don't like them. So, desert isn't a kind place, Duke Atreides. Best take care of your family while you can. Which, sounds ominous, but don't worry about it. So, basically, the same night, they're just chilling. Leto's talking to Jessica, like, what are we gonna do? Paul's not doing too good. Like, dude, was it really a good idea to make him a Bene Gesserit, like, or at least have the powers? And she's like, I'll protect him with my life. And then he's like, is that the Bene Gesserit speaking, or is that his mom talking? And it's, poses a good question. Is it because of your role, or is it because of your mom? Or is it because you're his mom, Which one would protect him, and which one wouldn't? And then they fall asleep. Paul's sleeping. Everybody's sleeping. And Leto wakes up because something weird happens. Like, there's a disturbance, and he feels something weird about to happen. So he goes out of his room, and he's walking around, and he calls security. But nobody comes. And what's it called? Leto gets sneak attacked, sneak this from behind, by a character I haven't even mentioned yet, actually. And it turns out that this person that sneak dissed him from behind was, Paul's doctor, basically, right? And Paul's doctor's always been a presence from the very beginning of the movie. he's always, what's it called? He's always checked up on Paul whenever he had the dreams, and he's always been there checking up on him, because this is a serious problem. And it turns out that he's a traitor because he's worked with the Harkonnen leader because he needed to get his wife back, right? Because he's holding her hostage. So it's basically like a more of a necessary evil that he is a traitor, but he still is a traitor at the end of the day, right? And so he's like, Duke Atreides, I know this is sudden and I know this is bad, but you are going to die regardless, right? So I need you to do something for me. I'm going to replace your molar tooth on the back of your mouth, and I'm going to implant a fake tooth with poison in it, right? Poison gas. If you crack hard enough on that tooth, it will release a deadly toxin that will kill everybody in the room. The Emperor of the Harkonnen will surely be in front of you gloating, so use this wisely. If you use it well enough, you will be able to kill everyone in that room, including him. This is the last thing that you will be able to do with your life, so hopefully you make a good choice with it. I'm sorry, but this has to be done. And so the doctor leaves, basically, bringing Leto to the Emperor. Meanwhile, I forgot to mention, the Harkonnen attack. The Harkonnen attack the base that Paul and everybody's at. Paul and Jessica get kidnapped by some Harkonnen, taking them to, what's it called? They need to take them to the Empire. Oh, man, excuse me. But everybody else, like Duncan, he's fighting for his life. Like, that dude is boxing people 1-16. And so he's doing that. Gurney's fighting with a group of Atreides army men. They're going crazy, but they're getting outnumbered because it was a surprise attack. They're at a complete disadvantage, and the Harkonnen win. They take over the base, and the scene with the Emperor and Leto starts happening. Paul's doctor, Dr. Yuan, he's like, all right, I brought you him. Give me my wife. He's like, oh yeah, you'll be meeting your wife soon. And he blasts him, kills him. He's like in the afterlife. And so he's talking to Leto Atreides, and he's like, alright, bloating, ghosting, eating a bunch of food in front of him. He's having the time of his life. And then Leto, man, I wish I remembered what he said here, but he says a really sick line. And then he cracks the tooth in, like the molar tooth that he got replaced, and the poison spills out, and it starts killing everybody. It's so crazy. And so some people survive and they close the door from the outside, but the Emperor is basically on death's door. So they get him back to like a rejuvenation chamber, like in Dragon Ball Z. They start doing that basically. Meanwhile, Paul and his mom, they use the Bene Gesserit voice to what's it called? Set themselves free, crash the helicopter, and hide out for a little bit. So while all this is going on, they find shelter underground a little bit. And what's it called? Paul starts having more hallucinations. And this one is even more because this is way farther in the future. It's showing Paul leading an army of House Atreides, but there's not the same House Atreides that his father led. It's a religious cult, basically. And they view Paul as the Messiah. And this has been foreshadowed before, like as in when Paul and everybody got on to Arrakis, everybody keeps calling him the Isam Aib, or Gaib, I think, or Isam Agaib. Like I think it's Arabic or something like that. But I don't remember how to say it specifically. It's been a while. But basically it means like the one who wanders in the dark or something like that. I'm butchering this completely, but I'm so sorry. Like it basically means that he's a Messiah. Or like it's like they think he's a Messiah. And while he's having these hallucinations, he sees all this, and he's just freaking out. He's crying. He's like, an unquenchable fire will come soon. And he's just freaking out. He's losing his mind. And he starts crying. And then he's like, why did you do this to me, Mom? I lost my dad. I have these powers that he even want. I'm losing it, man. Like, and his mom, being motherly as ever, she stays quiet and she hugs him. She embraces him, trying to calm him down. After that, they get ready to dip, trying to find a way to survive on Arrakis, a planet that they don't know anything about. And Duncan, surprisingly, survives the battle with the Harkonnen and leaves on a helicopter. So he meets up with Paul and all of them, and he takes them to the Fremen lady that was with them on the Spice Harvester tour, and they start getting ready. They start getting ready to try and find the Fremen people, like the villages for them. And they're trying to retaliate, they're trying to revolt against the Harkonnen, basically. And so, the Harkonnen ambush the place that they're at right now. What's it called? Duncan dies. Really sad, really tragic. One of my favorite characters, gone. The Fremen lady dies as well. Before she's able to tell the Fremen people that, like, oh, this is happening. And so it's just Paul and his mom again. And they keep traveling, they keep traveling, they keep traveling. They go through a sandstorm, and they barely survive, but they keep traveling. At this point, it's been weeks, honestly. Like, it's been a long time. And so they get to a rocky pass, and a sandworm appears, and they start running. They start bolting to the rocky area, and somebody throws a thumper, basically like a rhythmic device meant to alert sandworms, but as like a distraction. And so the person who did it was a Fremen person, a Fremen member, and one of the people there is one of the leaders that Paul met with and his dad during the like halfway point of the movie. And so he's like, "Oh, I recognize you. All right, bet. Paul, you can stay with us, but your mom can't. She's too old. She can't fight. She can't learn." And they ambush, or not ambush, but they start fighting. Paul and her mom, or his mom, excuse me. They start boxing. Shows that Paul's mom knows how to fight. And so he's like, "Oh, whoa, okay. You can stay. You're good enough. You're good." I presume too much. And so the person who threw the thumper for the sandworm, he's like, "No, these people shouldn't stay. I challenge, them to a duel, because here, strength is what leads." And so they do it. Paul steps up for his mom as a champion, and they fight. Paul, not ever having killed before, he's struggling. He's struggling to kill, but he's not struggling at all in the fight. And once he's like, yield, like, because he has him in submission, he's like, "Nope, can't do that, man. You either kill me or you lose." And now Paul has to do that, that crazy decision, because he's only a teenager, right? Like, he's a teenager going on to like his 18, 19 year. So it's something like he has to overcome. And he does it immediately. He immediately kills him once he realizes, like, "Oh yeah, I can't win." But he's not happy about it at all. He's depressed. He didn't want to kill him. He wanted he wanted to learn from him, but he couldn't. And Zendaya is actually there in the Fremen time, and she gave Paul a blade to do the duel with, because it's made out of a sandworm tooth. And she's like, "If you die, at least you die with honor." And he didn't die, so she's like, "Hey, Paul, I like you. I think you're cool. Great things are gonna be happening. Great things are gonna be happening." And so they move on, lay the dude to rest. Paul, his mom, and Zendaya are now walking together, and they're walking in the sand, excuse me. And that's the end of the movie. That's literally it. That's the end of Dune 2021. And so let me talk about it first real quick. Let me talk about my gripes, right? The first thing is that the movie's unfulfilling with the ending, because it's not a normal 3-act movie, right? The beginning, middle, and end. No, it's just beginning. This movie hinges on the fact that there's going to be a sequel, and there is a sequel confirmed, but If the sequel sucks or if the sequel gets canceled, this movie's gonna serve no purpose. It's just gonna be a cool movie with cool effects. So if the sequel doesn't deliver, then this movie's gonna be Act 1 for something that never has an Act 2. So hopefully, like, the hype and the expectations are building higher and higher, but what's it called? If anything, you can just read the books, so at the least you'll have an ending. Like, it's not like an anime where they never got an ending for, or a second season. You have an ending for it, at least, or a continuation from it. I don't know if the novels ended or not, but yeah, there's that. And honestly, I think that's it. I think that's literally the only complaint I had with it. Like, I didn't have any complaint with it besides that. Is that hopefully, like, as a whole series of movies, the the sequel and the first one can connect to deliver an even better experience. But this movie, Dune, amazing. I love this movie. I think science fiction is really cool, but this is like the best science fiction movie I've watched ever. Like, it's so good. It's so good. I give it an 8.5 to 9 out of 10, bro. I recommend this movie highly if you like science fiction or if you just like cool, interesting stories. Dune is one of those movies that I can't wait to what's it called, see the sequel for. And I'm so happy that I watched it. Oh man, like I do not regret it. I really recommend watching Dune if you haven't, or if you ever plan to. I think it's a good choice. Oh man, the what's it called, the cinematography. Oh, not even the cinematography. Like, what am I talking about? The CGI was amazing. The CGI for the worms, the equipment, everything, the battle armor that they had, the Batista as the Harkonnen. It was crazy. It was fire. And then Hans Zimmer doing the score. The music in this movie was amazing. It feels so Middle Eastern, but in the future, like in space, it's so cool, man. Like, the music always hit different because it sounded so different. Like, I never heard something like that for a sci-fi movie. It was so cool. Like, oh man, the music was great. The characters are awesome. I really like what's it called, Paul, as a main character. He's not too crazy in like the story department, but he's sick. Duncan was my favorite character. He was just he's cool. He's literally just cool. Zendaya, we barely got to see her. We only got to see her 20 minutes at the end of the movie, so can't really have much of a character on her. Paul's mom, she was alright. Paul's dad, he was a beast. Yo, Paul's dad was fire. Gurney, he was cool. The Fremen lady, she was sick. Honestly, she was dope. And just honestly, I'm like, all these characters, I'm engaged. I'm engaged with them. I'm engaged in like looking at them on screen. Basically, what I'm trying to say, I'm interested. So it's just fun seeing the characters, and the story had me engaged. Honestly, it had my eyes glued to the screen the entire time. I was interested from the beginning and end. And next thing you know, it even felt like it was a 2 hour and 30 minute movie. Like, it was dope. It was honestly so sick. So honestly, I do not regret watching that movie. I really recommend it if you haven't. I don't know if I've sung its praises well enough or not, but this movie was worth it to me. This movie was so worth it. Man, I really recommend it. But regardless, before my controller dies, that was Dune 2021. I hope you guys enjoyed me talking about it. It's been a while since I've done like a review for anything, so hopefully I don't sound too rusty or too low or too cocky at it. But regardless, again, I hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all have a great day. And I'll check y'all out. Peace.